Shalom. We'll get started here in just a few moments.
And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them.
What this is all about is the true fact of the past, that the Israelites are coming back to rule the future kingdom on this planet Earth. The Israelites was chased out of the land of Canaan many years ago, according to this Bible, by the Greeks and the Romans. And they set up many churches and synagogues trying to be us, while we went into a negative setting of the Greeks and Romans to find out about the other side of what the Most High is showing us. He's showing us, before we can bring the kingdom, to educate us to the negative and the positive. Once we learn this negative, we will know how to set up the positive, which is righteousness on this planet Earth. And that's what this book is all about.
Great men with great ideals can be separated by hundreds or even thousands of miles and still be in the same place. They can be years or even generations apart in age, and yet somehow find themselves on the exact same page. When these men join forces with the focus of reaching the same goals to obtain the same outcomes, they are not two, but one. Instead of simply adding one's common attributes to another's, they somehow tend to multiply all attributes of both. Whether from St. Louis or East Atlanta, whether from a savage land or a booming metropolis, whether they are 2 or 2 billion, the greatest their numbers could ever become is to truly become one.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto my power, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Chakodash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father. His true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, and his son's name, who the word enemy called Jesus Christ, real name in the Hebrew is Yahushua. Also give a praises, honor, and glory to the Yahweh Chakodash, the Holy Spirit, which is the force and entity that makes this edification possible. I want to say shalom to all you sincere hearted Akim and Akwath. That's you brothers and sisters, make your bodies a living sacrifice on a daily basis in this wicked and adulterous generation. Also want to give double honors unto my beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and who rule well. And I'm the brother Osmowath here from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back this Sabbath morning through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah to do another lesson. Now, Lord's will, this lesson be found edifying unto the elect of the nation of Israel, as well as glorifying unto the names of my power, Yahweh Shema Shah. But I want to briefly get into the topic at hand this morning. As you can read the title, The Deterioration of Rome 2.0, America and EU/NATO, EU and NATO. All right, the deterioration of Rome 2.0 with, Rome 2.0, okay, is none other than America combined with, NATO and the EU. And in order to understand that, you have to have understanding of the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, as it was prophesied that that deadly wound, let's grab it real quick. Revelation 13. And I have an article I want to get into, which I did a lesson on it times past some years ago, but I want to revisit it, because we literally see all these things happening, man. Okay, the Lord is tearing America apart bit by bit, and not just America, but okay, the EU as well, bit by bit every day, as is prophesied of in Daniel the second chapter. Okay, concerning the toes of the image. Okay, partly iron, partly clay. Okay, so it's very brittle. Okay, it's fractured. Okay, the Lord is ripping this place apart. All right, and it's a process to it. All right, but we've been given okay, front row seats, man. Okay, so Sirach 25th chapter speaks about there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to make me happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. Okay, a man that liveth to see the downfall of his enemies, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the Lord, okay, bring Esau, okay, down, tear his kingdom apart. So this is Revelation chapter 13. I'm gonna get straight to the point. All right, this whole chapter goes into the beast system, which we're currently in. All right, and this chapter ties, right alongside with Second Ezra's, Daniel the 7th chapter, Second Ezra the 11th chapter, and the 12th chapter. All right, as Daniel the 2nd chapter as well. But let me get this main point here, and then we're going to get into this article. This is Revelation chapter 13, in verse 3. It says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." Okay, and that deadly wound, okay, was going into what was going to happen to the Roman Empire. Well, what did happen to the pagan Roman Empire, the Western, okay, Roman Empire. All right, and it was healed during the time of the Renaissance. Okay, which that word Renaissance means rebirth, revival. All right, after the Dark Ages. All right, Esau came out of those caves. Okay, he came back into power. The Lord rose up the bases of men from that lower state. All right, but it was only to be for a short season, pursuant to Revelation the 20th chapter, and we're at the very end of that short season. All right, let's get that real quick. Revelation 20. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7. "And when the 1,000 years are expired," and this 1,000 years is speaking about the time of the Dark Ages or the Byzantine Empire. Okay, and that was when Esau suffered that deadly wound. All right, but it was going to be a time to where those 1,000 years was going to expire. All right, and that would bring forth what? The Renaissance, rebirth, revival of what? Okay, the Roman Empire. Okay, and when the EU was established, I believe it was let's see, 1957. Okay, they called it what? The Treaty of Rome. All right, the treaty. Here it is, right here on Wikipedia. The Treaty of Rome. All right, or EEC. Officially, the treaty establishing the European Economic Community brought about the creation of the European Economic Community, the best known of the European communities. The treaty was signed on March 25th, 1957. All right, called the Treaty of Rome. Why? Okay, because that was prophecy. And we're reading it right here, Revelation 20 and 7. "And when the 1,000 years expire, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea." All right, and this is exactly what we see. All right, he was given this short season to deceive the nations, which is going to lead him ultimately to World War III, Gog and Magog. All right, Ezekiel the 38th chapter. All right, and so this is exactly what we see it happening and taking place. All right, Esau finds himself in the third world war. Okay, with the least of the flock leading them out, and Thawadi Hal Shah for making good up on your word. All right, so I want to grab this real quick in Job chapter 8. All right, and we'll start at verse 12. This is Job chapter 8 and 12 in the NLT. "While they are still flowering, not ready to be cut down," meaning when they're still blossoming, okay? Because Esau's still, flourishing. His technology is growing day by day. Is like, he's heaping unto himself more people. Okay, it's like this nigga, he's still winning. He's still on a winning streak. even though we can see it through the spirit that he's losing. Okay, but carnally looking at the thing, it's like, damn, he just took over Venezuela, you know. So while they are still flowering, not ready to be cut, they begin to wither more quickly than grass. See, so while they're still flowering, at the same time they're withering. Okay, that's ultimately what's happening right now. The same happens to all who forget the Most High. The hopes of the godless evaporate. Their confidence hangs by a thread. See, and that's the case for you Edomites right now. Your confidence is hanging by a thread. Your pride is hanging by a thread, man. Okay. And this confidence that you have is going to lead you to the king of terrors, as it says in same book, Job, I believe, Job the 18th chapter. His confidence shall, let's grab that. Job 18:14. His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle. Okay. And this is what's happening, man. These Edomites no longer have that 1950, 1940 era confidence, okay, in America. All right. It's being rooted out of his tabernacle. All right, because they see the state of their economy, they see the state, okay, the physical condition of their kingdom, how everything is just dilapidated, the infrastructure, okay, is horrible. Okay, the food quality is going down. Your average everyday Edomite is just losing. So their confidence is being rooted out of his tabernacle. The elites, okay, the upper echelon, your presidents, your governors, your mayors, senators, okay. The Lord is showing all different types of signs that's just fucking their heads up, man. Chariots, which they deem as so-called UFOs. They're trying to figure out, damn, what's happening. Chariots totally disarming, particularly their military apparatuses. So their confidence is being rooted out of his tabernacle, it says, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors. Okay, and who's the king of terrors, man? Yahweh Shai. All right, so let's go here. Let's go back to Job 8. Job chapter 8 and verse 14 in the NOT. And it says, their confidence hangs by a thread. They are leaning on a spider's web. Okay, if you lean on the spider's web, man, you are going to fall. All right, no ifs, ands, buts are about it. All right, and that's the confidence of you everyday Babylonians. Okay, you modern day Romans. Okay, you're leaning on the spider's web, man. Okay, you think it's going to hold you up, but this shit is flimsy. Okay, the current infrastructure of this place is flimsy. Okay, the way your government is set up and designed, all right, it's all set up on falsehood. Okay, the economy is set up by scant measures. So that's destined to fall. Okay, the morality of the people here, all right, is at an all-time low. So it says, verse 15, they cling to their home for security, but it won't last. They're trying to hold on to this shit. Oh, let's continue to read. They try to hold it tight, but it would not endure. Okay, make America great again. Okay, underneath Biden's term, he had this campaign called Build Back Better. So they're trying to hold it tight. Those good old days of America. It's time to let it go. All right. The Lord is ripping this shit at your hands. They cling to their home for security, but it won't last. Oh, we got the best military. No, those days are over with, man. Now, granted, they still do have, A1 military as it relates to, everybody else. But hey, all right, in comparison to, that lineup, okay, you read in Ezekiel 38, Russia, China, Iran, and all those other nations. Okay, America can't stand up to that. So your security is gone. So they cling to their home for security, but it won't last. They try to hold it tight, but it will not endure. The godless seem like a lush plant growing in the sunshine, its branches spreading across the garden. Its roots grow down through a pile of stones. It takes hold on a bed of rocks. If you have a plant, okay, and the roots, wrap around stones and a bed of rocks, it's not going to endure. It's supposed to go down deep, in the dirt, in the soil, man. You see? So this place is going to be easily ripped up. And that's what's happening right now. Verse 18, when it is uprooted, it's as though it never existed. When it's all said and done, when the King of Terror, Yahweh Shah, comes and like completely uproots this place, it's going to be as if this place never existed, man. McDonald's never existed. Your old high school never existed. Okay. The White House never existed. That's the end of his life, and others spring up from the earth to replace it. And who's those others that's springing up, okay, from the earth to replace it? Let's grab this in the book of Sirach, the 11th chapter, in verse 5. It says, many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn the crown. You see that? And nobody's thinking about the men of Israel, starting with the elect, okay? Starting with the Yahweh Shai, and then the governing body, the 144,000. And nobody's thinking about, oh, hey, Yahweh Shai going to come take over this place. You see, and his men, the 144,000. Ain't nobody thinking about that. See, but the one that was never thought of have worn the crown. You see? So we're about to replace this man. Lord willing, we're part of that, the ruling class. If it be the Lord's will. All right, the tower of the flock, receiving that first dominion. That's what we're in this truth for, man. Job chapter 8 and verse 18 in the NLT. But when it is uprooted, it's as though it never existed. That's the end of his life, and others spring up from the earth to replace it. But look, the Most High will not reject a person of integrity, and that's the elect, nor will he lend a hand to the wicked. So the Lord ain't about to help you devils out. Okay, and you thought that the Lord was on your side, Esau, as it goes into in Psalms 50 and 22. Okay, but the Lord had to punish his sons. All right, but now our obedience is being fulfilled. Okay, and he's reproved us. Well, he's reproving you by the mouth of his prophets, and he's setting us up in order before your eyes. Okay, so the Lord is not about to help you devils out. You think the Lord's about to help the state of Israel out with the greater Middle East project or the greater Israel project? Hell no, man. Okay, the Lord just put that in your mind, okay, to lead you to destruction. You see? And he's called America out for this battle so he could turn America to a burnt mountain. Let's grab that real quick. Burnt mountain. I'm going to get this definition for deteriorate, because that's the condition of America right now. Rome 2.0 is deteriorating day by day. And deterioration, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But as each day passes, the condition, okay, of that organism gets worse and worse and worse. All right, so the state of America this morning is worse than what it was when we woke up yesterday morning. It's worse today, and it's going to continue to get worse until ultimately it flatlines. That's what we're waiting on. We're waiting for Uncle Sam to fucking flatline, bro. All right. Jeremiah 51 and 25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. And who's that destroying mountain? Okay. Who's that destroying government or kingdom? All right. America, the hammer of the earth. So the Lord is against this place, man. Saith the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, which destroyeth all the earth. And that's what America has done, is doing, and is continually, okay, planning to do, is destroy the earth. You see? And I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks. See that? Roll you down from the high and lofty position that you're in. And I will make thee a burnt mountain. I love this scripture, man. That's what the Lord's about to do to America. He's about to turn into a burnt mountain. All right. And this whole beast system, okay, that you Edomites, okay, was given, because the Lord gave it to you, man. This is going back. Let's finish this out in Job, and we're going to get the definition for deteriorate, and then we're going to grab this article. Job 8 and 20 in the NLT. But look, Yahweh Bashmal Shah will not reject a person of integrity, nor will he lend a hand to the wicked. All right. And the way we show our utmost integrity, okay, is by fearing the Lord and not taking that chip. Revelation 3 and 10. That's going to be the ultimate test, okay, of every hopeful elect's integrity. It's Revelation 3 and 10, the hour of temptation, which it centers around, okay, that chip, which when you go into that word um, try in Revelation 3 and 10, when it says, I will try them that dwell upon the earth. All right. When you go into the root word of that word try, it literally says for the idea of piercing, going to show you that that's going into, okay, the time period of where everybody's going to be tested and tried concerning the microchip. All right. So verse 21, it says, he will once again fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. And that's when he turns our captivity around. Okay. Like it says in Psalms 126. All right, when the Lord turns the captivity of Zion, it shall be as though we dream, and our mouths shall be filled with laughter. Okay, he's going to dry every tear. Okay, he's going to remove all sicknesses. He's going to remove death. Okay, and our mouths are going to be filled with laughter, man. Okay, like yo, that shit was crazy. You know, we're going to be seeing Esau right back in the pits, working, laughing at his ass, man, and all you nations, man. Verse 22, those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the home of the wicked will be destroyed. All right. So now I want to grab this word deteriorate or deterioration.
Deterioration.
It says the process, all right, the process of becoming progressively worse. All right. Just as if you have like a chronic illness, you know, it could be cancer. It goes from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 and then stage 4. It's a process of you becoming progressively worse. And who's that cancer? Esau. You guessed it. All right, you guessed it, man. It's not hard. If you understand Genesis 25 and Genesis 27, all right, you understand exactly what's happening in the earth. All right, you understand that the Most High set up a protagonist and an antagonist, with the protagonist being the nation of Israel, okay, and the antagonist, the villain, the evil, the wicked, being Esau Edom. All right, and he's the son of perdition. All right, this is Sirach 10 and 10. The physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that today is a king tomorrow shall die, proving that, okay, the king that the one that's a king today, he's that long disease. Okay, a long disease, man, meaning a chronic illness. Okay, so he's the cancer in the earth. All right, but ultimately he's the reason why his own kingdom is progressively becoming worse. See, he's destroying his own people, like it says in Isaiah 14. Okay, you destroy your own people. Let's grab that in Isaiah 14 real quick. This whole chapter, I really need to revisit this whole chapter, and we'll do a lesson on it. And this is another highlighted chapter, you know, from us here at Great Millstone that we go into all the time. All right, but let's see. We'll start up here at verse 9. All right, this is going into Babylon the Great. Isaiah 14 and 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. All right, meaning destruction is ready for you. It stirreth up the dead for thee. And who's the dead? These other nations. Even all the chief ones of the earth it have raised up from their thrones, all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So these other nations are seeing America is dilapidated. I keep using that word. All right, dilapidated. Let's look at that word. Let's see what it means. It's not an everyday word. Dilapidated is an adjective describing something that has fallen into a state of disrepair, meaning it's unrepairable. Okay, or partial ruin, often due to age, misuse, wear, or neglect. See that? So yeah, America is very well indeed dilapidated. Okay, it's beyond the state of repair. You see, it says often due to age, and the average age or lifespan of a kingdom, okay, is 250 years. That's the average lifespan. So in this year, all right, marks the 250th year of America. It says misuse, right? And it's being misused by unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit. It says wear, okay, going into is worn out. Everything and everybody here is worn out. The physical infrastructure is worn out. You got fucking potholes everywhere. How is this the golden city and you got potholes everywhere? You see? You go to Washington, D.C., the capital, okay? The capital of Babylon the Great. You go to Washington, D.C., it's the ghetto. you know? All right. It says neglect. Okay. Once again, everything here is just absolutely destroyed. But that goes to show you that, like this thumbnail I used for this video. Okay, it was a AI generated photo, of course. Trump and Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is drunk, passed out on the couch. You see, and it got Trump, dressed as a little baby. Okay, with a helmet on his head, playing with some goddamn toys, man. You see, and that's the state and condition that the Lord, okay, put the leaders of Babylon the Great in, as it goes into Isaiah the 19th chapter. See? And it says, scriptures also says, woe unto thee, O land, when thy king is a child. Okay? And America, okay, is ran by a fucking bunch of children, man. Your own president is making, I'm talking about the leader, bro. The leader of America, Babylon the Great, making AI photos of him flying in a plane, okay, and the plane is dumping out doo-doo on his citizens. Like, yo, this is your leader? He's a fucking kid, man. You look at all these tweets, back and forth, like, yo, you childish, man. But that also gives testament, of how low the Lord brought us down as a nation, to where he's got us subjected to these base men. All right, but this is a part of the good news, man. Our captivity is accomplished. We only got a little bit more left to go. All right. But our captivity is done, man. All right. Then the earth is about to be restored back into health and vitality, as it's going to be ran by Yahweh and the governing body. This earth is about to flourish, man. It's about to see power that is never witnessed before. So let's go back here to Isaiah 14 and verse 10. And they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. What do worms do? Worms help to decay. Okay, helps to break down, okay, organisms that's dead or dying. See that? Let's grab this word worm. Yeah, like the brother said, in other words, through. Yeah, for that word dilapidate, another word, it means through. All right. So this word for worms is Strong's H 8438 to lie. It says worm, scarlet stuff, crimson. Let's see. Get there. All right, what happened? Give me 1 second. They changed the definition. I know it at least used to say decay. I don't see it. Let me try the root word. Brothers, am I tripping? I know it used to say decay. Yeah. Let me try. Oh, okay. That's it. Okay. I clicked the worms. Okay. It said, because it said it twice. Let me read it. Let me read that scripture one more time. No, I wasn't tripping. Isaiah 14 and 11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Talking about, it's pride and rejoicing. And the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. So I had clicked worms, but let me click worm, okay, in the singular sense, because it's two different meanings and definitions. All right, so for the word worm in the singular, Strong's H7415. All right, ramah, maggot, worm, as cause and sign of decay. See that? Cause and sign of decay. Okay, and the sign is something physical. Okay, it's a token, and you can actually see it. All right, so you can actually see signs of America's decay. All right, its relationship between its allies. Okay, it's authority. All right, as it relates into amongst all these other nations. All right, is decaying every day. So now I want to get this article. All right, this is the freemaninstitute.com, RTG decline. All right, and this is an article I went into some time ago. As you can see, the title of it says, "Why do world powers decline and fall?" Okay, and it's ultimately because of Yahweh Bashim Shah. All right, but there's particular signs and tokens and processes that repeat. All right, that the Lord has set up. Let's grab this in Ecclesiastes 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9 in NOT. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say, here's something new, but actually it is old. Nothing is ever truly new. All right. So as we look at as this article right here, it says the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Okay. So this is why we can go into, particular parallels or, parallel, the downfall of the ancient pagan Roman Empire and equate it into this revised Roman Empire, because it's really one and the same. All right. And it has the same patterns. Okay. Of it falling out of power, except this time it's going to fall out of power and it's going to never come back. What's that? Jeremiah 51 and verse 64. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. So, okay, the evil that the Lord is bringing upon this place, okay, he's making America sink, and it's never going to rise again. It ain't going to be no Renaissance 3.0. Okay, no Rome 3.0. Okay, make America great. No, sir. All right, this shit is over with. This shit is over with, man. And for Wadi Al Shah, it's time for Yahweh Shah to come back, okay, and stake his rightful claim in his earth. All right, because this planet was really given unto Yahweh Shah as a gift. You see, and everybody in it and everything in it, man. And we're ready to see Yahweh Shah, okay, all right, rule. Which we know he's ruling now, but as it says in Hebrews, the 2nd chapter, okay, right now we don't yet see all things subjected unto him. We know that it is, but we don't see it yet, like it goes into in Hebrews, the 2nd chapter. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this. It says Gibbons listed at least 8 basic reasons for the destruction of the enormous Roman Empire. There are more reasons, but the following gives a proven overview from the pages of his writings. Perhaps there are some clues we can apply to the fall of the other world dominating forces over history. What lessons can be applied to our modern world powers? So number 1, it says decline in morals and values. Oh boy. This is a lesson in and of itself. This very first one, but I'm gonna try to get through all of them. Okay, it says those morals and values that kept together the Roman legions and thus the empire could not be maintained toward the end of the empire. The dramatic increase of divorce undermined the institution of the family. See that? And you look at the stats today, okay, over 70% of marriages do not last. They end in divorce, okay, within the first 3 to 5 years, if that. See? And this is all systematically designed, all right, as well. Let me grab this real quick in Proverbs. Proverbs 28:2 in the NLT. When there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily. But wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability. See that? And there's no question about it, bro, that, is moral rot here. Morals is declining day by day. It's actually an argument, okay, with these morons, as if there's actually, more than two genders. Like, why is that even a talking point? There's more than two genders. You see? Let alone a woman is equal to a man or above a man. You know? So I'm gonna read this again. When there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily. This is a sign. Okay, this is a sign that this place is collapsing. And this is exactly what happened, okay, during the pagan Roman Empire, man. So it says a dramatic increase of divorce undermined the institution of the family. And the family, okay, is a lesser government. As a matter of fact, when you go into that word family, the etymology, here we go. It says collective body of persons who form one household under one head. And who's that head supposed to be? The man. It says, and one domestic government. See that? One domestic government. So really, a family is a miniature government. So imagine, okay, a world filled with, broken families. All these miniature governments just broken apart. Okay, well, that's going to what do you think is going to happen to the overall, ultimate government, man? It's going to fall. See? So it says crimes and violence made the streets of the largest cities unsafe. Even during Pax Romana, there were 32,000 prostitutes in Rome. And here in America, Rome 2.0, every woman, the most women are prostitutes, bro. Whether they, admit it or not. Whether they're professional or whether they're unprofessional. You take a bitch out to get tacos, you're gonna get some. If you cook for her, you're gonna definitely get some. And then she, it's a one night stand, she's gonna be gone. What do you call that? That's a prostitute, man. Quid pro quo, however you say that, man. Give me something, I'll give you this. You see? So the average woman here is a prostitute. It says emperors like Nero. Emperors like Nero. Who's Nero today? Who do we believe Nero to be? Trump. Okay. And you study the life of Nero, Trump mirrors that to a T. So it says emperors like Nero and Caligula became infamous for wasting money on lavish parties where guests ate and drank until they became ill. That sounds like Trump. You see that? He's wasting money on all this BS, man. Okay, here we are in the middle of World War III. He's building this that addition on the White House. Says the most popular amusement was watching the gladiatorial combats in the Colosseum. Okay. And most of those gladiators were Jake. Or they were Jake. See? And this is, the bread and circuses, man. It's like today, you got UFC, you got boxing, got all these different sports. Says these were attended by the poor, the rich, and frequently the emperor himself. And I believe, let me see, they just had a UFC event at the White House. Let me see. Yep. UFC Freedom 250. Okay, marking the 250 year birthday of America. So it's called UFC Freedom 250. Is a historic mixed martial arts event scheduled for June 14th. It's June 14, 2026 on the South Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C., featuring 7 fights, including 2 championship bouts. It says UFC Freedom 250, also known as the UFC White House event, will take place on June 14, 2026, coinciding with President Donald Trump's 80th birthday and Flag Day, marking the 250th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence. Yo, this is what we're reading. Okay, the Lord is showing us all different. Bro, this is the Lord. It's like, hello. History repeats itself. Rome fell. America's falling. See that? And this time it's going to sink and it's going to never rise again, man. So who's gonna take its place? We are. Lord willing, we're part of that the tower of the flock. See, but the elect is going to it's coming to the elect, man. So we licking our chops over here, man. We smell blood in the water. So this is why we watching every day, man. We on Esau's ass like white on rice. See, so we just got to get through this hour of temptation, get through the straight gate. Lord willing, He continue to be with us, man. All right, because rulership is coming, power is coming. It says these were attended by the poor, the rich, and frequently the emperor himself. Right, just like we just read. UFC Freedom 250. It says, as gladiators fought, vicious cries and curses were heard from the audience. One contest after another was staged in the course of a single day. Should the ground become, hold up, it says one contest after another was staged in the course of a single day. It just said they're going to have 7 fights. They're going to have 7 bouts. You see, for UFC Freedom 250. So it says one contest after another was staged in the course of a single day, man. This is Rome 2.0, bro. Like it can't get any clearer than that. History is repeating itself. These are same spirits coming back. And mind you, it says emperors like Nero and Caligula, they were famous for this. And lo and behold, who's in office right now? Nero. Even when you look at, pictures of Nero in the ancient world, he looks just like Trump. Which the apostles and elders and brothers, they did videos going into those comparisons, man. There's no need to be the dead horse, but I'm gonna do it again. I'm going to show you a picture because it's proven. All right, the words of our Lord, faithful and true. Look, this looks just like Trump, bro. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had the same hand gestures and movements and probably talk just like him. And, it got to a point to where, everybody hated Nero. They absolutely hated him at the end. Oh, and Nero also wanted to, let me show you this, build an arch at the very end. Because Congress just approved, Trump to build an arch. Let's see. I gotta look at my history. Let's see. Roman arches. Salakia, just bear with me. I'm gonna find it for you. If I can't find, okay, I'll just type it in. Did Nero build? See? I said, did Nero build an arch in the end of his rule? Yes, Nero did commission a triumphal arch late in his reign, but not at the very end of it. Nero's arch built near the end, but not his final year. Nero ordered the construction of the Arch of Nero around AD 62. And Trump, what's the arch that Trump's trying to name it? Arch. I think it's called Arch of Trump. Yeah, Arc de Trump. Arc de Trump. You can see spelled ARC space DE Trump, meaning Arc of the Trump or Trump's arch. See? Look, Trump's DC arch includes golden winged figure, eagles, lions, and oh man, yo, This nigga is Nero. This is beautiful. So it says Nero ordered the construction of the Arch of Nero. He's self-centered, all about himself, just like Trump, the Trump of Arch, Trump's Arch, or the Arch of Trump, man. Around AD 62, about 6 years before his death in AD 68. Why Nero built the Arch? The Arch celebrated Roman success in the East, specifically victories over Armenia and Parthia. So, okay, he thinks that he's winning. He's deceiving himself. The whole time, your ass going down. Your kingdom is deteriorating. It's dilapidated. Okay? I'm gonna keep using that word. It says military successes led largely by his general Gnaeus Domitius Corbulo. It says Rome forcing Armenia back under Roman influence. So, like many Roman triumphal arches, it was tied to victory over subdued or controlled peoples. See? So, who do you think that he's really ultimately celebrating the fact that he has subdued? Us Israelites, man. See that? But Yahweh Shah is coming back, the star out of Jacob. Okay, our star player of our nation about to come. Okay, and win. He's going to have this overwhelming victory, man, and give it to us, Lord willing. It says fitting the broader Roman tradition. It says where it was and what happened to it. The arch stood on or near the Capitoline Hill, one of Rome's most important ceremonial locations. That'll be equivalent to modern day Capitol Hill. That's where you get the word Capitol Hill from. See, it likely showed military imagery celebrating Rome's eastern victories. It no longer exists today. It was probably dismantled after Nero's death, when the Senate declared him an enemy of the state. And many of his monuments were removed or altered, a practice called damnatio memorial, meaning the condemnation of memory. Wow, because they hated him. They declared him, as you can see, an enemy of the state. And that's pretty much where things are headed right now. You see? People are advocating for Trump to be impeached. His own former supporters are advocating for him to be impeached, go to prison. See, he's an enemy of the state. He's working for the interests and welfare of the state of Israel. So this is how, Rome was taken out, man. So going back to this article, and it's 7:20, so I probably won't be able to get through the whole thing. If it be the Lord's will, we'll do a part 2. But number 2, public health. There were many public health and environmental problems. Many of the wealthy had water brought to their homes through lead pipes. Previously, the aqueducts had even purified the water, but at the end, lead pipes were thought to be preferable. And that's stupid because lead is highly toxic. I'm going to show you once again, he's unfit. The wealthy death rate was very high. I wonder why. The continuous interaction of people at the Colosseum, the blood and death probable spread disease. Those who lived on the streets in continuous contact allowed for an interrupted strain of disease, much like the homeless in the poorer run shelters of today. Alcohol use increased as well, adding to the incompetency of the general public. See, now today you got fentanyl, you got all these these newly created drugs, and your leaders are handing you drug paraphernalia, like underneath the Biden administration. They, gave these people fucking needles and shit, man. It's a drug epidemic. He's ruining his own people, like it says in Isaiah 14. Let's go back to Isaiah 14. Just like what Rome did, man. So you really think, because you got niggas, man, talking about America got another 1,000 years. IUIC talking about we could possibly have another 30, 40 years here. Are you serious? Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms. So this is going to happen when you're brought back down to your low base estate, man. Okay, and people going to say, these other nations going to say, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners? See that? Destroyed the cities thereof. Okay, destroying these other, other cities in these other countries, and even destroying your own cities and your own people, man. You see? So what's the remedy for that? Verse 21, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities, man. Cut this man off. So slaughter is prepared for every single last one of you Edomites, man, after you serve, 1,000 years of hardcore, rigorous captivity underneath the Israelites. You're going to be slaughtered. Thus saith Yahweh Shemal Shah. And we're not here to sugarcoat shit. And can't no Edomite be saved. All right. You got these other Israelite camps, man. Here we are at the very end. Esau showing his ass, talking about we're gonna biohack you. Okay, we're gonna splice your genes. Okay, we don't need to wait on who the world called Jesus to bring immortality. We can create immortality ourselves in a laboratory if you give us enough time. A few men in white coats, we can create immortality. But yet you got Jake talking about Esau can be saved. Okay, all this BS, man. God hates Esau. We don't hate Esau. What are you talking about, man? So number 3, political corruption. It says one of the most difficult problems was choosing a new emperor. Unlike Greece, where transition may not have been smooth, but was at least consistent, the Romans never created an effective system to determine how new emperors would be selected. You read, how they patterned, their system of, selecting new leaders, first Maccabees, I believe the 8th chapter, that's where you get this system today, man. 2 horns like a lamb, you got the Democrats, Republicans. Back in the ancient Roman Empire, you had the patricians and plebeians. So it says the choice was always open to debate whether the old emperor, the Senate, the Praetorian Guard, known as the emperor's private army, okay, and Trump has his private army called ICE, says gradually the Praetorian Guard gained complete authority to choose the new emperor, who rewarded the guard, who then became more influential, perpetuating the cycle. Then in 186 AD, the army strangled the new emperor. The practice began of selling the throne to the highest bidder. During the next 100 years, Rome had 37 different emperors. Wow. 25 of whom were removed from office by assassination. This contributed to the overall weakness of the empire. Hidden conspirators were working within the government to secretly destroy it. They worked quietly, invisibly, and deceitfully. During the entire time, they were secretly dismantling the government of the Roman emperor or empire. So like it, right? And that's why Yahweh says a kingdom cannot stand if it be divided. They publicly proclaimed their unswerving support of it. People lost it. Wow. See, they publicly proclaimed their unswerving support of it. But the whole time they were lying to the people. So it says people lost their faith, both religiously and in their government. The efficient Roman government gave way to chaos and disintegration, man. And that's what's happening today. People losing faith, okay, in so-called Christianity and their government. You see? That's why we open up with that in Job, the 8th chapter, man. How they're leaning on a spider's web. They're trying to hold this shit tight, near and dear. Okay, but it's over with, man. Your own leaders have failed you. See? Number 4, unemployment. Yo, unemployment. What's the growing trend today? Unemployment. Every day, more hundreds of people are just being fired or laid off. See, Isaiah 19, there shall be no work for Egypt. Okay, and that's speaking about spiritual Egypt, which is also spiritually Rome 2.0, America. So it says, during the latter years of the empire, farming was done on large estates called latifundia, all right, that were owned by wealthy men who used slave labor. A farmer who had to pay workmen could not produce goods as cheaply. Many farmers could not compete with these low prices and lost or sold their farms. This not only undermined the citizen farmer who passed his values to his family, but also filled the cities with unemployed people. At one time, the emperor was importing grain to feed more than 100,000 people in Rome alone. These people were not only a burden, um, so like I'm gonna read that again. At one time, the emperor was importing grain to feed more than 100,000 people in Rome alone. These people were not only a burden, but also had little to do but cause trouble and contribute to an ever increasing crime rate. See, just as they open up the borders, you see, your own leaders open up the borders and allowed the influx of all these, so-called migrants in, and putting them on, particular governmental aids and assistant programs, man. All the while, your own people are suffering, unemployed. You see, and just as the farmers were lamenting, okay, back then they're lamenting right now. Jeremiah the 50th chapter. Um, what's that? Jeremiah 50. Is it 16? Let's see. Yep. Jeremiah 50 and 16. Cut off the sower from Babylon. And who's the sower? The farmer, as he sows seed. All right. So the farmers are being cut off by the government, okay, by the weather, as the weather is manipulated by the government. Okay, this conflict, well, not conflict, but this war with Iran, and the whole ordeal with the Strait of Hormuz, it's a fertilizer crisis. You see? And as we speak, there's a wildfire out there in Georgia, and as it was yesterday, it was 16,000 acres that burned up so far. I wonder how much, it is today. But as of yesterday, it was 16,000 acres. All right. And a lot of it was farmland. So Jeremiah 50 and 16, cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword. They shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. Okay. And this war has a lot to do with that, man. The fear of the oppressing sword. All right. The farmers are put in a very dire situation. They're stressed the hell out. They're depressed. A lot of them are off of themselves. You see? Number 5, inflation. Man, I really don't want to end it. I got to, because I'm about to be late. But number 5, I'm just gonna name them. Number 5 is inflation. We see that. Number 6, urban decay. 7, inferior technology. They're trying to keep up with China, but really their technology is weak. Number 8, military spending. All right. Then it goes into, I'm going to read this, the final blows. For years, the well-disciplined Roman army held the barbarians of Germany back. Then in the 3rd century AD, the Roman soldiers were pulled back from the Rhine Danube frontier to fight civil war in Italy. This left the Roman border open to attack. See, because they were stretched out too thin, just like they are right now. Habakkuk 2 and 5. His feet abideth not in his home. You see that? Now Trump is talking about going to war with Cuba. Like, bro, you still you sending tens of thousands of troops over there to the Middle East. Now you talking about waging war on Cuba, and so he's spreading himself out thin. So it's leading, a big ass gap. His border is open to attack. It says gradually, Germanic hunters and herders from the north began to overtake Roman lands in Greece and Gaul, later France. Then in 476 AD, the Germanic general Odoacer, or I'm not sure how to say that word, overthrew the last of the Roman emperors, Augustus Romulus. From then on, the western part of the empire was ruled by a Germanic chieftain. Roads and bridges were left in despair. So like it left in disrepair. And that's one of the similar words for dilapidate as we got earlier. One of the similar words for it was disrepair, meaning it's unrepairable. It says, and fields left untilled. Pirates and bandits made travel unsafe. Cities could not be maintained without goods from the farms. Trade and business began to disappear, and Rome was no more in the West. And that's what ultimately, led to one thing after another, to where eventually, okay, we went through a period of the Dark Ages. Rome took that deadly blow, that deadly wound. See, but this time there ain't gonna be no healing. It's no healing Babylon the Great, as it says in Jeremiah 51. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. All right. So be in awe, okay, at the work of your power, Yahweh Bashemal Shah, as he's striking these deadly blows upon Rome 2.0 every day. All right. This place is on life support, man. All right. So yeah, we'll leave it right there. I got to go ahead and head on out. At the water Akim, for all the precepts, comments, shalom. Yeah, the brother, I'll grab this. Priest GMS Taza Doctor put up the Habakkuk 2 and 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. You get that phrase with the word thick clay. All right, it's abatya, which means pledges or heavy debts. Okay, which is leading to this inflation, man. Which that's something that the Roman Empire, okay, suffered. They were mixing, or they were minting their coins. You see that the Nerion, just false weights, man. And that's the American dollar. It's a false weight. It holds no weight, and the currency is being devalued day by day, man. All right, so that's pretty much it. Lord's will. You Akim, you Akwat were edified. Till next time, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to my power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Chakodash. I want to give double honor to my beloved apostle, Elder Great Millstone, Muwafaq Babal, Shalom.